that's pretty much how that works. So I work every day with AI tools from a generative perspective as well as in other ways. And so, yeah, that's my areas of expertise and what I'll be bringing to the table today. So with that, I'll hand it back to Joe.
So what I do a lot is everything is very practical that I work with museums. Because these are small museums, nothing's sexy, nothing's very flamboyant, but it's just very practical how to use this. So when talking with, and again, I'm dealing a lot with people in museums who are kind of on the upper edge of the scale. Like, I'm 60, and so they're my age and above, like to 80 plus. So I'm very much dealing with a different audience. Hopefully, if this is like too basic, throw something at me and I will change my tune. But for AI, one of the things I like to go through is that there's different kinds. When you keep hearing AI, what they're talking about now is what's changed is really generative AI that's making the big splash. And generative AI is the concept of computer-generated images, computer-generated text or code. This is the new sexy right now. This is what's popping up. Traditional AI has been with us, I think, for probably 20 years, since like 2001 or so. And that's going to be like taking big data and working and being able to crunch it down and make something of it, to see things that it would just be impossible for human beings to spend time on. Death bots, what you keep hearing about, that's neither of those. That is general intelligence, all right? So that's that idea of having human level intelligence and can perform a task, being able to do theoretical concepts. So those things are, that's not what we have, all right? That's not, and that does not exist right now, all right?
Skynet.
So the great thing about this is that there are thousands and thousands of AI companies that are appearing right now. We are sort of in that period. I'm kind of thinking like the .com boom. We'll probably see an AI bust too following, but I think there's 17,500 based in the United States, just the United States. Kind of my thinking is that so much with like generative AI, it is a one-trick pony. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but it really is what you see is what you get. All right, it can be better, it can be faster, more efficient, but that's really what it is. All right, but we're going to step back and talk about the Romans. Right? Because this is one of the things I do want to bring up is the concept of how AI is going to change how we think, and that I think is very true. I like to think of scrolls and codexes, all right? And because I work at the Minnesota Historical Society, I love history, so I always like bringing it up. And I just kind of want to bring up the Romans, and I believe this is Caligula, a statue of Caligula, holding a scroll. One of the things that was really interesting about Romans is that they really prized, rhetoric and oratory and memory. Memorize every damn thing. It was like that was the belief. They didn't read off of anything. Scrolls weren't books. They were sort of used as a reference, maybe to write things down for other people that they would read and memorize. All right, but you were considered great if you could memorize things, and if you could turn around and you could use that rhetoric. And so it really focused on memorizing texts. Now, one of the things about scrolls, this is the other thing that's fascinating about a scroll, is it isn't just, it's hard to read and you can't flip it over like a book. They also didn't have periods and spaces, all right? It's because it was so, they didn't have cheap paper. So everything was they had to use scarce resources very wisely. So the sentences were just run together, no spaces, no punctuation. So can you imagine trying to read this? This is not something that's easy to read either. But all of a sudden, and the Romans really they came up with kind of the first books, which are basically slabs of wood. I think as you see here, slabs of wood tied together. Those are kind of the original codexes, the ones that came in, and that transformed everything. This is probably, when you hear like the Gutenberg Bible, you know, the movable type, probably what's bigger than that is the fact that this is what they came up with, was actually you can turn pages. A codex or a book was revolutionary. Actually, early Christians just adopted that. Probably why they, overcame the Roman gods. But this is what was amazing about it. But it also created this change of thinking, all right? Because what was prized by the ruling elites was this idea of memorization, rote memorization and rhetoric, but all of a sudden it's like now books allow you to keep things and store things, and you can pull one book, look at one book, look at another, and then and you can start analyzing things. All right? So people who had who had maybe poor memorization skills like me, but if you can take things and you can pull this book and you can put things together and you can do some analytical work, those are the people that were in demand. And the people who could memorize, that just became a cheap parlor trick. All right? So it revolutionized things. This is where we look at like movable type. It isn't just the fact that the technology does change people, it has always changed people. And we are at that point now where we see that with computers, information age, and we see that with AI. All right? It will change things, and I'm not saying for the better or for the worst. It just is what it is. All right?
What about calculators?
Well, calculators. Yeah, well, I mean, you think about that. When I was growing up, calculators were like, they were scared that, people will never learn math now. It's like, it really became a tool. And it became a way of getting from point A to point B. How you got there was less important. And if we use these tools correctly, it can be that way. They can be a way of point A or point B. But they can also be a major crutch if we're not careful. Okay, so one of the things is, and this is the cautionary tale of AI, is why should you always prove and check AI work? Well, because self-driving cars, all right? You always hear in the news the self-driving car that gets into an accident, and it's kind of one of those where you have, the self-driving car makes an error, but the driver is supposed to be monitoring and not playing video games, and the driver should be paying attention. So it's also driver error too. It's the same thing when you use generative AI, is you need to be paying attention. If you're using it to create text or you're using it to write things, you have to read it. You have to have at least some proofing skills to be able to go through and go, are these facts right? Because you can't trust AI because this is what's happened. Self-driving cars, all right? Just remember that. Why? Why proof it? Self-driving car. All right. So with that, I'm going to bring up a couple of examples. And again, I don't know where you're at as far as skill or what you're looking for, but I'll just show, and I'll show you what I've shown some of the folks that I work with in museums. In particular, what I'm going to pull up is, I'm going to pull up a text generative AI, Perplexity, which is a fantastic tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a poor grant. Like I work with grants, and I've seen a lot of badly written grants. So I have an example of a very badly written grant. There we go. I'll read a little bit of it. I don't think it's really readable. So, all right, exhibit title, The Acme Corporation Gang Manufacturing Legacy. So the project description is this. The Acme Historical Society wants to do an exhibit about the Acme Corporation. The Acme Corporation is very famous and made lots of things, especially gags and props. People know about Acme from cartoons and other places. We think it would be good to have an exhibit about it so people can see things about Acme. The exhibit will have some stuff about Acme and maybe some pictures. We hope people will come and look at it because Acme is interesting and has been around for a long time. Now, I'm not even going to go with the spelling errors and other things in there, but I have seen these grants, all right? So you have this grant, and I will tell you, I am a poor writer, all right? Oops. We're all watching you, sir.
Dalton.
Speaking of, I need to hear. Cheers. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna run it through, and we're gonna improve this. All right? So I'm gonna take the whole thing. Oh, no, I just need to learn how to, which ones to use here. Okay, there we go. I'm not used to a laptop as much. No, I thought, okay. There we go. All right, so this is Perplexity. I'm going to drop this in there. Here it is, all right. Yay. And I have, and oh, by the way, I have, if you saw at the front of the slide, there was a QR code and a URL. You can access these slides anytime you want. So if you wanted the code or you want any of these links, help yourself, all right? So this is not computer code. This is just me writing like what I want. And oops, here it's not. Oop, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I don't know what I'm looking at here. Here we go. Okay. And so I'm just saying, rewrite and improve the grammar proposal using the following sections. Rewrite to a 12th grade reading level. Provide clear ideas and objectives. All right. And this is important, by the way, this last one. Rewrite without adverbs or adjectives. And I don't know why, but every AI loves to use adverbs and adjectives. They love to just fluff it up. And that's the first thing that makes it look like AI. All right. So I'm going to copy all that. This is, and one thing you'll notice is I have many other sections in here. I only have, I think, 4 sections. I'm going to have it add a budget. I'm going to have it add for a grant enduring value, sustainability, short-term expected impact and progress indicators. All right. I'm going to go, hey, wait, I don't know what to write. Give me an idea. And I'm going to put this in front of what I, oops, or I just lied, I just sent it. All right. So I was trying to think, but I didn't give any commands. Interesting. I think I tried to improve the text. Let me try this again. So I will paste.
Shift character turn. Otherwise it'll send it.
This will drive me nuts. I know it. This is going to be. Sorry about that, folks. That was one thing I thought I wanted to bring a mouse. Oh well. Okay, and I'm going to paste. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to. Okay, there we go. free account, by the way, why I'm getting the warning. So, all right, so what it did, it basically kicked it out. It's still kicking it out right now. It's writing the sustainability. It did the enduring value, project personnel. It gave me a work plan and a timetable. None of these are actually really bad, but again, self-driving car, all right? I can use this as a base, but I really need to build on that. I can't just go, oh, it kicked it out, I can use this. Self-driving car, you will be in an accident if you use this. But it really, I am someone who's not a good writer. I have writer's block. It kicks it out, it gives me something to start with. This is a great thing, but if we will compare, now here's the brief project summary. Let me get this. Yeah. Oh, project description, here it is. So now it says in the project description, the exhibit will present the story of the Acme Corporation. It will include items from the Acme businesses and references from cartoons. Text panels will explain the use of the Acme name in the business and its role in animation. The exhibit will use physical objects, images, and written information. The goal is to show how Acme became part of business history and popular culture. Way better than what I had written, okay? So you can see that much of a difference, all right? And again, it kicked out things. And I welcome it. Again, the link is up there. Feel free to explore more on this. But it kicked out a lot of things. It kicked out a budget for me. It kicked out the idea of enduring value. Like a lot of grantors want to know how long is this, how is this going to last? How is this sustainable? How are you going to keep it going? Sustainability. The Historical Society will maintain and update the exhibit as needed. Artifacts and research will remain available for future use. The exhibit can be adapted for future displays or outreach programs. Now that depends on what you're going to do. If this is going to be a traveling exhibit, or is this going to be a long-term exhibit or a short-term exhibit, that will impact the statement. So you need to know what you have. But this can give you a good idea of what to use. So the other thing is, I write a lot. Let me think. I added a newsletter, a weekly newsletter to all, like we have 4,500 subscribers. It goes out to museum professionals in the Minnesota Midwest area. So I get like a lot of events. People send me their events, and it's like accountant getting a shoebox full of stuff from, these museum people do not know how to write press releases. So, and I would have to spend all this time trying to figure it out. So I have this little bit of code that I've highlighted here. And it just says, rewrite into the following format. Title, month, day, at time, PM, hyphen, city, organization, hyphen, description, cost, cost, learn more. All right? Now, it may seem kind of odd, but what it does is it takes everything and it fits it in that little description. And that's where I may have, let's see if I have an example here. Let's see. Oh. Uh-oh. All right, so here's a press release on the history of menstruation. All right, so this is Beltrami County, and it is talking about period, and so I have to kind of look through this, and this is actually a really good one compared to what I get. All right, but here I go. That in there.
Your mic stand.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Oh, So this is for the event listing. Oh, come on. All right. So I've got the copy of the text in there. I also could have put that document in there. It allows you to upload documents, but I'm just gonna cut and paste, and I'm just gonna kick it in there. Here it goes. Good. All right. So what it kicked out is right here.
Yep.
There it is. And so it basically says, the title, Acme Corporation, a gag made manufacturing legacy, September 15th at 6 p.m. Acme City, Acme County Historical Society, explore the real and fictional history of Acme Corporation behind the name behind the iconic cartoon gags. Oh, that's interesting. Well, how did I do? So, all right, we would call that a hallucination. This is where you gotta look at what so it's pulling in the text that I added previously. All right. So I would have to figure out why that happened, unless.
Start writing prompt.
What's that?
Start writing prompt maybe.
Yeah, it's so one of the things you kind of look, and that has happened before. One of the things that prompt that I asked to do the set the format of, I can just keep pasting press releases in there, and it'll kick it out. I don't have to give the command again. I can just keep going and keep going and keep going. Not fully understanding why that happened, but I think it probably had a very different prompt at the beginning, but hard to say. However, I can also just go and I can create a new, I can create a new one and just go in there and start that all over again. If I'm getting those weird hallucinations, if I'm getting things and confused, you can do that. So but to understand, there's a lot of different, and I think one of the things that we have here, and I do want to show, is that there's a lot of different AI generators for text out there. One of it is Perplexity, which is fantastic, and I can thank you for that. You turned me on to that. Grammarly, anybody use Grammarly? That's actually a fairly popular one. That one is, what's great about that is, for Perplexity, I type it in and it kicks it out, and I don't get a chance to modify it. What's nice about Grammarly is you can actually work on it like a Word doc. And so you can paste things in, and it will try to correct the spelling, correct the grammar as you go along. And you also has a generative AI feature where you can ask it to say, write this like a Minnesotan would speak. And it'll add ooftas, and it'll add things like that as well in there. I'm not kidding you, it's great. You can ask it, write it like a Stephen King novel, all right? But what's nice about Grammarly as opposed to some of these others is this allows you to do actual editing as well as just running a generative AI.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there like a donculator modulator where you can take what AI has written and plug it in and say, how AI generative is this? Like, how AI does this sound?
So is there something that you can run and look and see how AI sounding is it?
Yeah.
Do you have any answer to that one? I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. There are multiple AI detectors.
Yes, there are multiple AI detectors. So it will look for patterns and things like, if you've ever used generative AI like Perplexity, you can see that it puts a lot of dashes into things. They are the N dash, where it's the same size as the letter N, and then an M dash, which is the same size as the letter M. So they're two different sizes. and they will be peppered throughout your document. And that is a dead giveaway. Like as soon as you see that as a human, you're like, this is AI. But there are multiple tools out there that you can put things through to say, was this generated using AI? And it will pattern match, and it will say this sentence is very long and super descriptive, which is something AI would generally do. Maybe look at this and change it out so it doesn't read quite as much as like AI. So, answer your question?
Can I add
Thank you.
something? So the teachers in colleges all over the place now got AI detection software. They have to, and they're trying to, but there's still the cheats are as good and got, counter for that too. But all the teachers definitely are using that.
Yeah, definitely. And the more that you use one of these tools like Perplexity or ChatGPT, you create that account, you log into it, it remembers you, it remembers your history, it remembers everything about you, that there are the discussions that you've had with it, all of the questions, and it gets really fun after you've used it for a multitude of time. Let's just say a year or two. You can start asking it, what do you think I look like? And it will paint a picture for you. ChatGPT will actually tell you what it thinks you look like based on the prompts you have fed it over the time that you've had the account, which is way fun. But I wandered off, so what was the question?
There was no question.
No question, so it's just me talking. Hey, stream of consciousness time.
One of the things I wanted to show is, again, different ways that things that are offered. Grammarly is one, Perplexity is another. Obviously, ChatGPTI, blah blah blah. But what you're going to find is that a lot of software apps that you're using are incorporating it. And in this case, this is the newsletter I put out, and this is the one that was just recently today. And HubSpot incorporated, so whether I'm doing a blog post or an email, I can use AI. So let's say I put this in here, and this little sparkle is, I can have AI rewrite it, I can have it change tone. I want to make it heartfelt. And so this will rewrite it over here, and it'll come up with something that is heartfelt. Now, it's actually not bad. I still kind of prefer to use AI and Perplexity and other things because it's a more powerful engine, but this is actually really good. It's very quick for being able to do something and to kind of do correction and grammar correction very quickly while I'm working in there. So how many of you, do any of you do like emails as far as to clients or anything like that? Okay, so I don't know what you're using, but like MailChimp is like a really popular one, all right? There are many others, but MailChimp is also incorporated in AI, but these are being incorporated in the tools that you use, and you should look at them. These are great tools to use as you're putting together your emails. Again, don't get lazy, self-driving car, again, warning, self-driving car, avoid that. But use that as a tool to help you improve your creativity, your grammar, and to put these together. But garbage in, garbage out. Give it something good, and it will come up with something very good as well. But MailChimp and many of these are starting to incorporate these. So that's what's really cool. And I'm not going to go too much because I'm hogging the time. I want you to take it. But the other thing is AI generators for images. And as someone who's an artist, I'm both horrified and I'm intrigued. And I've used it again and again for images. Even though I could draw these, I could paint these, but it's so quick. And when you're on deadline, my fear with this is that what publishing software did in the 1990s and 2000s is it really improved like the worst, like for amateurs and stuff, they were able to really create their graphics, good graphics. But it also brought down things at a level. So corporations and people who could pay, instead they just like handed it over to the secretary and you can make it now. And so instead of maintaining a professional quality, it lowered it. So it raised up the bar quite a bit with kind of at the bottom, but at the top, a lot of people also just got lazy. And sort of this is sort of the same thing with this. Is I envision that you're going to see a lot of great graphics coming from people who never would have been able to afford it, never been able, and who are probably creative enough, but don't have the artistic talent to actually make some really wild stuff. But at the same time, you're going to see a lot of corporations just being cheap bastards and not and just not hiring artists, not doing a good job of it, letting their secretaries do it. But so I'm not going to really, I'm not really going to go into, unless I'd like you to talk a little bit. But these links are here to go through, and these are really good AI generating sites for images, and I envision you. I said you should check that out. The other thing I was going to say, AI tools. Were you going to touch like Otter at all?
Yeah, I can talk about reading.
Yeah, that's a great stuff. Transcribe Us. Now this is very much of a museum thing, but if you're looking at, actually most people here are fairly old. Not that I'm criticizing or anything, but I don't know how many Gen Zs are here, right? But the issue would be cursive writing. If you run into a problem and you don't know how to read cursive, you can run it into Transcribe Us, and it basically kicks out that cursive letter and writes it out for you. So for an archive, for someone who works in a museum, you get a lot of these steel pen letters and all this stuff. Man, it's just great to put it in there, and I'm amazed at how well it does. I can't read some of this stuff, and it's pulling it out and figuring it out. So it's a pretty powerful tool. It's also expensive if you want to buy the Pro level. I'm gonna. That's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Joe. That was a great presentation. I love the slideshow. I do not have a slideshow. And I'll concatenate mine down into about 10 minutes roughly, and then give some time for some Q&A afterwards. So today, we're talking about AI, right? Artificial intelligence. As a tool for business, we're going to focus on its strengths and limitations as we have on all our signage. So key strengths of AI in business. There's a lot of things it does really well. Automation and efficiency. AI can take over all of your repetitive tasks, things that you have to do all the time. Feed it into a robot that frees up time for you to go do other things. And starting up businesses, whether in cannabis or not, you have a lot of stuff to do all the time, especially if you're a smaller company, if you're a micro license holder, if you are a smaller company, mom and pop shop. You got one, maybe two people, and you have to wear every single hat. So the more robots that you can build, the better off you're going to be. And as Joe pointed out multiple times, garbage in, garbage out. You got to train that robot effectively. You have to feed it appropriate data. You have to feed it the things that you want it to know. So it's not going to know everything. AI is not omniscient. It's not really alive. It doesn't have human emotions. It does not understand human emotion at all. So there's a lot of odd things about AI that happen these days. But anyway, back to its strengths. Data analysis and providing insights. You can quickly analyze very large amounts of data to find trends and and other things that are going to be beneficial. If you make data-driven decisions in your business, that is going to make you accelerate 10 times faster than your competition. Those folks that don't make data-driven decisions are blindly deciding what to order, right? If you're in a retail setting, I'll order 8 more of those and 3 of those. Why? I don't know, because it looks like we need it. Well, how many did we sell over time? Let's look at that. Let's feed it into this robot and look at our sales statistics. That'll give you the right answer, or at least it'll point you in the right direction of what it is that you need to reorder and when. And that's just a small, one tiny thing that you can do. And because it's a repetitive task, you want to feed that into that robot, right? And as we've seen, you can create multiple channels inside of each one of these tools. So you can have a marketing channel, you can have an operations channel, you can have a governance channel, because each one of those things is going to happen inside of your business anyway. And if you have to wear all those hats, make a robot. It will make your life so much easier. Anyway, back to what I have. Some good examples: marketing and sales. AI can predict which leads are most likely to buy. So you can feed that sales data in, so you can target your leads in a much more meaningful way. Customer support chatbots are very easy to create. There are tools out there for anyone without any coding experience that can build a chatbot on your company's website, on your retail website, on your cultivation website, whatever it is, that will help support your customers. It can answer those typical questions. FAQs can be fed into it. And those chatbots work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They don't call in sick. They're wonderful, right? They're either on or they're off. And if it's off, you got bigger problems to worry about on your website. Data integration. So again, with data, AI is a beast when it comes to chewing through data, and really that's where it shines whenever it comes to business. Generative is awesome because it can do a lot of those repetitive tasks for you. Integrating your data into an AI model that can, as Jamie said earlier, a gonculator modulator. That's what I refer to, things that don't have a real name sometimes. We're like, what's the gonculator modulator going to do for us? It'll read the data that we have again on sales and tell us what the trend looks like, or which leads are going to be more appropriate, or what reorder you need. Limitations and challenges. Again, quality in, quality out. Right? You have to train these models appropriately. As much as it can go out and find things on the internet, that's just like us. We can go out and find things on the internet. Is that good data? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there that isn't real, that isn't appropriate for it. So again, garbage in, garbage out. Quality in, quality out, I like to say. Ethical and privacy concerns. Whenever we're talking about business and artificial intelligence, we don't want any of our proprietary information, any of our customer data, any of those things that we want to keep private. We don't want to feed them out into public-facing tools. It's just not a good idea, right? So I work for a very, very large organization in the insurance field. We have specific policies against using AI tools. We have them blocked from most of our workstations simply because of the regulatory nightmare that would happen if any of our insurance data got out there. Like, I can't even imagine the horror show that would be for the company if that happened. Anyway, there's reasons why you want to keep certain data separate and why you don't feed it out into these tools. Smaller companies often will, because the risk reward, right? Aeon's huge. It would be massive if there was a data breach because of something like one of these tools. Oops, I said where I worked. Versus a smaller shop, is it going to be are you really breached? Is the risk reward actually there? I wouldn't do it. I would have a privatized version where it's offline. That's me, because I can do that. But yeah.
I would say the one thing to think about, and you're right about that very much, is that
you're very right about that. But one of the things, again, from a smaller, because I deal with smaller museums, and so that luxury of building something offline, the Minnesota Historic Society can do that, but not the Acme County Historical Society. So one of the things to think about is that I've used a lot of these and free accounts, and God knows what they're doing with the data I put in there. But I don't care. These are press releases. These are things that are not trade secrets or anything. But like, it's the idea is that are you working with Squishy Soft software company or Microsoft software company? One's going to be a little bit more you have less risk with Microsoft than you say Squishy Soft, and so you can probably, for a larger company that you can probably have more trust with something like that than say just a smaller, I don't know where this company is, but boy, it looks cool. So it does become an issue of risk management, especially when you're a smaller company.
Thank you for adding that. It's very true. Like the risk reward, you just weigh it out, right? And so ethical and privacy concerns is where we were at on limitations and challenges, right? The next limitation and challenge we kind of touched on as well. You're dependent on human oversight on all of these things, because you're quality controlling that data that's going in. You're dealing with humans that are putting that in there, so you're going to deal with whatever that comes, whatever comes along with that person entering your data. So Joe touched on one of the other tools called Otter AI, and I actually wanted to touch on that one because we all have Zoom meetings, right? Everybody on here has online meetings all the time, I'm sure. And you can use a service like Otter AI. It will join the meeting with you and take notes, and it will chart takeaways, and it will have action items. So it'll say, if Joe and I have a meeting and we're talking about things that we need to get done, it will say, Joe has a takeaway to do the slide deck for the presentation. Jude has a takeaway of setting up the technology piece over here for this. Nobody had to take that note. The robot took the note for us, and it gave us the information back. I still take notes during my meetings because I don't trust the AI to grab everything, but it is a nice backup safety net in those situations where I have been in meetings and I forget to write something down, or intentionally don't write it down because I don't want to do it, but however you want to say that. I forgot. I really just didn't want to do it. So yeah, that's kind of it for my section here. I'm gonna take it down to a smaller section just because, and we'll open it up for any questions that people may have. So, anybody have any questions? Yes.
You're talking about creating these robots and having like departments, so to speak, like marketing, and you talked about a chatbot. Is there any way to create like a internal AI system that isn't open to the internet, so that you're not exposing client data that's sensitive to the world, or is that not possible?
It is very much possible. Most large corporations already have internal large language models that they utilize to do an awful lot of things. An example would be United Health Group. Recently, it was in the news for having claims that ran through a chatbot, right, and got denied by chat, which that's a safety control, right? That is a quality control gate that should not have been breached. It was, and it's kind of a poor example, but also in that sense, it's a dual example, right? You get the bad, you get the good. You have the internal large language model and capability of using AI internally, then you also have that, okay, this did a bad thing. It was not supposed to go that far. That's the storyline. We'll stick to it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, it's usually cost prohibitive. Like that's probably the biggest thing. Cost and time prohibitive because you have to build out the large language model. You have to build out all of the mechanisms that will do all of that processing. So it's a nebulous process at best. So at my day job, we stand these up internally for our company. I am standing up the third large language model that should be complete by the end of by the third quarter. End of the third quarter is when we should have our third large language model up and operational internal to our company. And that will help our division do its division things. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Is AI able to have like a mapping tool for route planning? Like, is it able to like look at maps and be able to like figure out the best way to do your different days? Because that's one thing I've been thinking about looking into.
And I want to understand that question. I want to make sure that I heard it right. Are you asking if AI can, what about maps?
So essentially having a territory and selling to different places and being able to have different sections, can I plug in addresses and it would be able to help me figure out how to get to the
Maximize.
entire, in the
I got
best way
you.
possible?
The logistics
Yeah.
of your territory or your area. Yes, essentially you can do that. Once it knows your territory, then it can start to optimize it for you. It can start figuring out that customer X in this territory reorders this product very frequently. So that way, every time you go there, you'll know to carry some with you because they may or may not have remembered to reorder, depending upon the size of the shop, right? And if you have that with you, then you look like a rock star for that retailer and they will come back to you, without a doubt. When our suppliers would do that, that was something that we very much valued because they understood which products that we used sometimes better than we understood which of their products we needed, and until we learned, right? And so having that in your tool belt, so to speak, is a really great idea. Yeah, so it can do that. Very cool. Yeah.
So what you're saying is like putting all of this information in is what's teaching it.
Yes, yep, you are teaching it what you want it to do, and it has access to all of the functions, features, modules, everything that's baked into that large language model. Like ChatGPT is baked in with all of the things that it needs to do what it does. You teach it what you want to teach it, you prompt it with the things you want to prompt it with, you tell it what you want it to be, and it will become that. If you want it to be, for instance, what I did for the particular presentation tonight, I just wanted to see what it would come up with. So I told it that you are an expert in business documentation and training. I need to present to a group of non-technical people the strengths and limitations of AI as a business tool, provide a rough draft and an outline of a 10-minute presentation covering this topic. Right? So I told it very, very explicitly what I wanted it to do. I didn't just say, build me a presentation on AI business. Who knows what it would have come up with, I had a very finite and a very boxed in version of what I wanted. So that's what I told it. I'm very, very verbose with my prompting in AI. Yeah.
Thoughts on like Gemini versus Chat?
Yeah.
Which one, do they have different purposes? When you would use one or the other?
I tend to use it for personal preference, really. I use a multitude of generative tools as well as data analysis tools and things. Perplexity is one that I go to quite frequently. ChatGPT is one that I've used extensively, of course. any of the co-pilots that you have with your other tools. As Joe had shown, it had a co-pilot section, and that co-pilot is helping you write out whatever you're doing, or it's trying to help you figure out whatever it does. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Have you used like Google Gemini yet?
I've used a little bit of it.
I haven't yet, and I just don't know if it's better, if it's worth switching over or not.
You know, try them all out, and try them all and see what fits. Because sometimes it really is just if it's aesthetically pleasing for you. I mean, quite honestly, that's.
Some do better at other things.
Yeah.
I find that some will be better at one thing than another. Grammarly fails at kind of that.
The research that Perplexity does, but it has the ability for me to edit in like a real document. So that's where you have to kind of figure out what you want. What I brought up, this is what I just wanted to say, is that, so when I talk one trick pony, so really what we're talking about model building, and this is just one site of many. Like I said, what was it, 17,000 companies, I think, of AI companies. This is Logic Balls. So they have a whole variety of AI tools. And that might be worth kind of testing out and seeing. So some of it is dealing with marketing, some of it is dealing with image generation, some of it is dealing with, let's see if I can pull it up. Oops. Let's see, come on, here we go. So fundraising, crowd engagement activities. I mean, so these are all AI models that it's built, it's created. And again, the issue is always trust. Is this a company that's going to run away with your data? Research is very important. But these are, again, it gives you at least an idea. If you can't even, if you're starting out going, well, what the hell can I use AI for? There's companies that have already come out and they've, like, again, this Logic Balls. All right, what is it doing? Oh, well, marketing, event planning, client appreciation events, dress code recommendations. Okay, well, that's interesting. But these are things that you may not have thought you could use AI for. All right, these are different models and they may be worth exploring.
Other questions?
Fun thing about AI too is that you can ask AI about AI, and it will tell you all about it. You can ask for the top tools in the explicit area that you want help. So you can say, give me the top tool for building a chatbot on a website. And it will say, okay, cool, here it is. And then you're like, oh, give me the free or low cost tool, please. Because they can be very expensive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know I came in a little late, but I was just wondering in terms of like automation and creating workflows, is there any specific ones or tools that you recommend? I've seen AI specifically where you can kind of connect with a couple different chatbots and sync it to Google Calendar, but I was just wondering if you found any other ones particularly useful or how you like to use the automation and workflow design.
Yeah, absolutely. Make is a really good one. I enjoy Make. Zapier, I think, is another one out there for automations. I don't know how much AI integration Zapier actually has, but those tools are fantastic for automating your website to your CRM, for instance, right? I mean, you have all of these business tools, and if they're all separate from each other, they're not sharing information and sharing data in an effective way for you to make really good data-driven decisions. So, thank you. Any other questions?
In terms of like cannabis technology and how it's maximizing either like the retail space, the cultivation space, the extraction space, where do you see the most advancements in AI for production coming in the next couple of years?
That's a really, really good question. It is multi-pronged, I would say. There's a lot in grow operations that can be automated, right? If you grow at home and you have a small tent and a system from, insert manufacturer X, they have an automation tool built right into the interface, right? So scale that up, and that's exactly how commercial growers are going to be utilizing things like AI as well. They're going to be using it in that capacity, analyzing the data that comes out of that might be something else that they could utilize and say, okay, I can see we had a real huge dip in our humidity, which caused X to happen. Buds were smaller, so that way they can start making data-driven decisions as well, right? From growing, manufacturing is going to be the same thing. You know, how many widgets did I pump out? How many packs of gummies did I pump out? How many of X did I do? Where are they going? How many were ruined? You can tie all of that together and really sew those tools into a nice tapestry to really help you, again, as a smaller operator. The more you can automate, the better you're going to be. So, thank you. Any other questions at all?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Very, very much. We appreciate you coming out.
Question, is there like a recording of this that I can listen to that I missed it all?
And also, if you want to get the slides, that's the URL and the QR code.
Yep.